Hello, I'm Alisa from School of Liberal Arts, Sukhothai Thammathirat Open University.
And I'm Jay. Welcome to Culture Me, where we talk about cultural issues and differences. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at stoucultureme@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/stoucultureme. And don't forget to like us.
ถ้าท่านผู้ฟังสนใจที่จะแลกเปลี่ยนความคิดเห็นก็สามารถเข้ามาได้ที่อีเมลแล้วก็ Facebook ที่อาจารย์เจได้พูดไปนะคะวันนี้เราก็จะมาพูดถึง polite expression in English continued from the last show isn't it อาจารย์เจ
Yes, last time we spoke about how a lot of Thais think that Westerners speak such direct language, and that also in Houston, where I'm from, a lot of people think that the Asians who are there speak such direct English, and that sometimes Westerners are speaking indirect, very polite English, but a lot of the listeners don't really know what the softeners are.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
How about we listen to this phrase, Ajahn, that there will be a delay in the completion of the project. If your boss hear this, what do you think he or she would feel?
Well, he's not going to be happy. He's not going to be happy.
There will be a delay.
It sounds so for sure. It sounds so for sure that 100% there will be a delay.
No attempt to finish it.
Exactly. It sounds like there's nothing we can do. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing that I've thought of. It just sounds like it's a 100% delay. And, in life, nothing is 100%. And there are often things that it's possible that we could do something. We could try.
So how are we going to change the verb here, Jan?
If you change that to, there might be a slight delay in the completion of the project.
Even better than there may be,
Yeah, might sounds a little, just the slightest bit, even softer.
Because we learned in school that might suggest a very, very little possibility, but may you still have some possibility.
Yes.
So in this case, you want to say something rather negative because you are not going to finish the project. So you use might delay.
Exactly. And you're telling the truth, but you're making it sound like, we might be able to do something to make it be completed on time. That we're not just going to sit around and
this of course must be based on the truth, isn't it? It's not just play with the language.
Right. It's not just playing with the language. I mean, it needs to be, especially, you're talking to your boss and giving information about the company or work. It needs to be the truth. It needs to be the truth. But it doesn't have to sound dire. It doesn't have to sound like this horrible news. You can soften it still, and you can make it sound like you are trying to or do something, or you're willing to do something.
Ajahn, so these are the words that we call the qualifiers, like very, a little, a bit, slightly, small, one or two. Ajahn, can you sort of give us some example with these qualifiers to make things better?
Qualifiers can be used to either increase or decrease a word. So as an example, if I say it's hot, I can use a qualifier to increase hot and say it's very hot. It's very hot, and it makes it stronger. But you can also, if you're giving bad news or saying something negative and you don't want it to sound so bad, you can use a qualifier that decreases. It makes it less bad. Things like a little, a bit, or a little bit, slight or slightly, small. One or two.
Then what about this phrase? We are having problem with the new product. How can you soften it again?
Well, unless there are problems with the entire product, that the entire product is horrible, which is what that sounds like. It sounds like the entire product is horrible. There's nothing good about it. But if that's not the case, which probably it is not the case, we're having one or two problems with the new product. And it sounds like, if you're giving that news, it sounds like we can solve this. I'm a good worker. I'm a good employee, and we can solve this problem.
Ajahn, what about the marketing campaign is behind schedule?
How about the marketing campaign is a little bit behind schedule.
Okay.
If it's just behind schedule, it could be a year. It could be a year behind schedule. If it's a little bit, maybe it's a few days. That's not so bad.
Ajahn, apart from these qualifiers, what about negative question forms? Will it make our sentences better or more diplomatic?
It makes them. It can make it sound like not such a strong demand. It just sounds more like a suggestion, a very polite suggestion.
For example, like this sentence, Ajahn, we should redesign the company logo.
Change it to a question, and shouldn't we redesign the company logo?
More of a suggestion.
Yeah, very soft. If someone says we should redesign the company logo, it sounds very strong, and it sounds like the company logo is awful, and there's nothing good about it. But shouldn't we redesign the company logo? It just kind of puts a suggestion out in the air. It's soft. It's not direct.
And what about we must hire a new advertising agency? This present agency is not good.
Yeah, that sentence would be, obviously the advertising agency is terrible, and we must. It's 100% something we need to do because it's a bad situation with them. If it's not absolutely horrible, it's just a suggestion. Couldn't we hire a new advertising agency? Or wouldn't it be better to hire a new advertising agency?
Yeah, I think, Ajahn, these are very, very useful because you are showing us the nuance or the how our language is different when you use it. Add some couldn't we or wouldn't it be better?
Especially, if you're in a meeting and you're in a meeting and you're gathering ideas and inputting suggestions. If you say something like, we must hire a new advertising agency, it just sounds so strong, and it can sound very bossy. Which is even bosses don't want to sound too bossy, but if you're not the boss, you definitely don't want to sound bossy.
But unless we want to make a strong case.
Hey, if you want to make a strong case, yes, I totally agree. And there are times, it's not rude, but there are times like, if the advertising agency is terrible and you know that it has to be done, hiring a new one, yes, we must hire a new advertising agency. That's fine.
Yeah, Ajahn, I think it's nice to hear some of the effect of the audience when they hear we speak. I think it's good that we have to be aware of those effects too. Ajahn, and what about using the past continuous tense instead of just the simple present?
Changing the grammar, and this is one thing that I've commonly noticed when someone is speaking and they're using a different grammar, like past continuous, and that is softening, but a lot of the listeners aren't really understanding that it's softer. They're not feeling it.
Yeah.
But like, instead of saying, I hope we can sign the contract today, saying, I was hoping that we could sign the contract today. It just makes it sound so much softer.
And so, like a tentative, you are suggesting something and not too forceful.
Right. Right.
And What about I think we need to hire more employees?
Change that to I was thinking we need to hire more employees.
So I was thinking, I was hoping it makes it more like giving the audience more choices.
It could be. It could be. It just sounds less forceful. It sounds less forceful.
And what about I aim to finish this project by the end of the month?
Change that to I was aiming to finish this project by the end of the month.
But in this case, it may sound too like a whimsy, as I'm not very determined to do the job.
It could. It could. Again, everything depends on the situation. It depends on the situation. If you want to sound very sure, and then I aim to finish. But if you're in a situation that you do want to make it softer, I was aiming.
Ajahn, and this another one that is very interesting to me, the use of passive voice. You use passive voice when you don't want to pinpoint the doer or the subject of the sentence.
Exactly. This is one of the ways to make your language the softest, because it's so indirect. You're not saying who did what.
These are maybe the new perspective on passive voice. As Thai students, we have gone through so much trouble learning how to use the passive voice, because it concerns the use of verb. And the structure, it's difficult for us, and in a very complex tenses.
When in English, in writing, we don't consider using passive a good thing usually in writing, because it's if you use passive voice in writing, it really often sounds boring. It sounds like there's no action going on. So a lot of us in writing courses have been taught not to write using a lot of passive unless it's necessary. But in spoken English, to be very polite, it's a really good thing. It's a really good thing.
I think this is good for students or the audience to be aware of this point.
Like as an example, if you asked me to do a report, but yesterday you broke my computer and I can't use it. Well, I don't want to tell you, well, I can't because you broke my computer. That wouldn't be very nice. But if you ask me to do the report, and I might say, well, my computer is broken. I didn't say you broke it. You did, but I didn't say you did. So it just puts the information out there, but it's not putting blame on anyone.
Yeah, that's the thing, not to pinpoint somebody or blame on somebody.
Exactly.
Like all the sweets were eaten.
Exactly.
All the cakes were eaten.
I didn't say you ate all the sweets or he ate all the sweets, or you're not naming names. You're just putting the information out there without naming names.
Ajahn, let's see or discuss some of the other sentences that you can make it more diplomatic.
Okay.
Like this one, Ajahn. You said you were going to sign the deal today.
Okay. Change that to it was understood that you were going to sign the deal today.
So the focus is not really on the you.
Exactly. The focus is on the topic, not the person.
And what about you agreed to lower your fees?
How about it was agreed that you were going to lower your fees?
So it seems we knows a lot about how to use polite languages and polite expressions and nuance นะคะคือความละเอียดอ่อนของภาษา of different phrases and by using vocabulary or grammatical structure อาจารย์ I have seen some of the cartoons and it was very nice to compare the context to be polite in what situation. Can you
Exactly.
tell us about it อาจารย์
Sure. We've talked about depending on the context, what the situation is of what kind of language to use. And I found this funny cartoon, and it shows a man drowning in a river, and
จมน้ำนะคะคนกำลังจะจมน้ำ
and there's a man, a passerby, just walking by, and that he's just being very direct, and he's screaming help, and the passerby is just keeps walking because the man is just so direct,
not polite enough
not
to be
polite
helped.
enough. And anyway, then it shows the man who's drowning, saying, "Excuse me, sir, I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but I wonder if you would mind helping me a moment, as long as it's no trouble, of course." And he's drowning, and so, but the passerby is happy that this man used polite language, and he's throwing him a raft to save his life. But anyway, it's funny because in that situation, no, you don't use that super polite language. You use direct language. Help me. Like going back to asking for a coffee that we talked about before. In a restaurant, would you like would you mind bringing me some coffee? Or I would like coffee, or could I have coffee? And I talked about if you want to be super, super polite, like in someone's house, like someone's grandmother's house or someone's mother's house, may I trouble you for a cup of coffee, or something like that. If you said that in a restaurant, the waitress would probably look at you very funny, because it's too polite for a restaurant.
Yeah, อาจารย์ so we have to see like we are making a request or making an offer, then we know the context or which time and place to use it.
Right,
อาจารย์
right.
And if you are going to accept the request or accept the offer, not too much trouble for that. But if you are going to decline the request or decline the offer, then you have to be very, very polite, not to hurt the other people's feeling.
Right,
Maybe
right.
I mean the simple rule like adding "I'm afraid,"
I'm
sorry,
afraid, I'm
things
sorry.
like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think that should wrap up our polite language for today and the last show, Ajahn.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.